Hello. Uh, Today I'm just going to be talking about this topic that I've been mulling over for a while. I've had a lot of other video ideas, but this one interested me the most. Um, to explain the title a bit more, I don't hate living. I don't hate existing, I suppose. I suppose I would describe myself as an absurdist. Uh, I don't really believe life has any meaning. You could give it meaning if you wanted to, but at the end of the day, you'd still have to recognize that it has no objective meaning at all. No, this is really just me complaining about some of the difficulties of being born as a member of Homo sapiens. Firstly, this is a little bit more of a double-edged sword, I suppose. But the physical limitations of the human body are definitely irritating, to say the least. As most people should know, as our species, or I guess genus genus is perhaps a bit more correct, started developing larger brains. Our muscles had to atrophy because there's no way to keep a large brain and large muscles, or strong muscles, sorry, running at the same time. They just require too much energy. Although I'm sure you could do it somehow, but in our specific situation, our muscles atrophied, so we could spend more time giving energy to the brain and developing the cerebral abilities of our genus. I say that like it was predetermined. It wasn't. It was all, Darwinian evolution. But yeah, compare us to any other of the great apes, and we are physically extremely weak, which is something that I find fairly irritating. There are times that I wish I was, as strong as a chimpanzee or a gorilla and whatnot, because it would make things a lot easier. And yeah, it's just sort of like an ease thing. Again, I said this was a bit of a double-edged sword because I do enjoy the ability to think and be aware of the fact that I'm existing and be able to think about existential ideas and to be able to do maths and have conversations with people. And I suppose experience the joys of the human brain, despite the many drawbacks it also has. Yeah. Humans are also pretty fragile creatures. We can't take a whole lot of damage, which is a bit of an annoyance as well, because a lot of situations that contain any amount of danger require risk assessment, which would be nice to not have to do because that takes up thinking time, and I'd rather think about other things than how can I avoid danger. Well, that's just me. Maybe people enjoy thinking about avoiding danger. I'm not sure, I don't talk to a lot of people about that. I suppose that's all I have to complain about with physical limitations. It's sort of a small part of this annoyance that I have, but not one that I can entirely complain too much about. As I said, it's, I think overall in this one, the physical front, I think I'd take being a human over a chimpanzee, because I enjoy having a more intelligent brain than chimpanzees, of course. I wouldn't describe myself as particularly intelligent compared to the average human, if at all, really. Actually, yeah, pretty much average intelligence. Yeah, the main reason why I wanted to talk about the reasons that I hate being human is more of the, I suppose, psychological responses or psychological effects of, I suppose, having the human brain. Firstly, I hate that fears, specifically phobias, can be baked into our like psychology, or what would you call that? Like brain function. For example, especially with phobias, because you can recognize it's irrational all you want, but you still have the feeling of fear. I find that so terribly, and I hate it. I loathe the fact that I have phobias. I used to be very afraid of heights, not so much anymore. But I am very claustrophobic. I'm afraid of small spaces. I don't really know where that came from in my DNA or genetics or whatever, because I've never had a traumatizing experience with being stuck in a small space. I mean, I'm a larger man, but it's like, I find it hard to believe that I hate small spaces just because I'm a bit bigger than the average person. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And even when I'm trapped in or I say, like, I get trapped in a small space, but if I ever feel uncomfortable because I feel claustrophobic, no matter how many times I tell myself that there's no reason to be worried, the anxiety swells inside me, and I panic, and I don't know if I lack the willpower or the mental flexibility to get over it, but I just can't help but feel afraid, and I'm extremely frustrated by that in my daily life whenever I think about it, because I try and think about everything as rationally as possible to avoid getting too emotional and letting situations spiral out of control. But whenever it comes to phobias or things like that, I can't stop myself. It just, everything goes out of control essentially, and it frustrates me. And even though I can, as embarrassing as this is, I feel like I'm beginning to develop a fear of intimacy also. Um, which obviously is not one of the worst phobias you can have. Um, but when, like, anytime I think about being intimate, it's the same feeling I get when I feel like I could be trapped in a small space. I get I unreasonably uncomfortable, despite the fact I know that nothing is wrong. There's no reason to be afraid of any of this. Excuse me. Um, these sorts of involuntary responses don't really gets on my nerves. And another thing I used to have very bad anxiety, but I managed to wrangle it in with the help of CBT. But it hasn't gone away. Like, I just have been better able to deal with the feeling of it. This isn't due to phobias. It's just was to do with school. And I became able to deal with that anxiety and just by school and exams and stuff like that. But even before I go in to sit an exam or something like that, I tell myself, I know inherently there's nothing to be afraid of. I still get anxious, and a little bit of that is good. Obviously, you need the adrenaline to sharpen your mind and keep you focused on the task at hand. But it's like, I really appreciate if my mind and body were a bit more closely linked and there wasn't so many involuntary responses within my body. I just wish I had complete control over my body. I wish I didn't have any involuntary responses at all, because it irritates me, because your body can just do things that you don't want it to do, and it makes me feel helpless sometimes. Because I always like to have the option to improve something or make something better via, working at it, or, changing a mental pathway or the way you think about something. But sometimes with being human, it's not always possible. Like I mentioned with phobias, by definition, they're irrational. So, like, they don't make sense, and because they don't make sense to you, because you can't understand why you're feeling afraid. There's no way to solve the issue, which really, really annoys me. As I've said before, but as I'm sure you can hear now, I'm a little bit under the weather, one would say, with a sinus infection. Unfortunately, I'm genetically predisposed to getting sinus infections. Thanks, parents. And there's nothing I can do about that. Well, at least there's nothing I can do about that yet. There might be maybe technology in the future that, allows you to fix that, but right now I can't do anything about it. I just, tough luck. Which isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but it's a little bit annoying when you can't, when you're denied by nature due to inherent traits that you have. Uh, I suppose the reason I really got thinking about this was because uh, there's fortunately I haven't had the opportunity to be told no many times in my life, which is extremely fortunate. I'm very grateful for it. In school, I was able to, you know, breeze through most subjects easy enough. It came pretty naturally to me. You know, I didn't have to really worry about, you know, my grades and stuff like that. But then even that bred a a form of anxiety within me that, you know, if I wasn't performing well, then, you know, how am I? What is my worth? I suppose that's what this boils down to now that I'm speaking about it more. I didn't realize, I can't believe I missed this while I was thinking about it, but I hate the idea of being an imperfect being, which is, I guess, more of a problem with me than it is with nature or humanity. But I don't like being imperfect because I don't feel good enough, and well, I guess now that I've discovered this, it's something that I need to work on. I'm sure there are other people who can relate to the sentiment of hating being human. As I said though in the beginning of the video, that now I'm not so certain that I'm that fortunate to have a brain that's self-aware, because, you know, if I didn't have a self-aware brain, I wouldn't be able to think about this at all, about the nature of being human and being imperfect. I'm kind of also a little bit upset because I thought I'd gotten over that a while ago. That's really the main reason I went to CBT, was to, you know, get over this desire to be perfect all the time, even though it was really only in one facet of my life, just school. Like, I've never really played sports. I've only started exercising in the last, really exercising properly in the last year. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of happy I made this video, because now I've discovered the root of the problem, as it were. And I hate being an imperfect creature, and I hate being able to think about the fact that and I hate being able to know about the fact that I'm imperfect. I wonder how long it will take or how long it will take for another animal to become self-aware. I think that will be interesting. I think we'll more likely see that first than extraterrestrial communication, to be honest. Although, considering how far out either of them could be, although I suppose it's probably a topic for a different video. Yeah, I can't really think of much more to add. I had a lot more to say, but I've sort of come to the come to a conclusion about why I was bothered about being human. You know, I haven't fixed the fact that I don't like it, and I should, because I need to accept things like this and not take it too seriously. Because as I said, life, in my opinion, doesn't really have a meaning. No, it has no objective meaning at all. And the human race could get wiped out tomorrow. Life's still gonna go on. The whole planet Earth could get wiped out. Life is still gonna persevere in another corner of the universe. Well, the universe doesn't have corners, but another area of the universe. Um, yeah. Well, I think I'll leave it here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe it got you to think about some things. Um, this is all fairly low effort, low budget. I'm pretty tired. It's like 3 a.m. or something. I'm sick. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully I'll upload some more videos if I ever get around to actually making them. Usually I have ideas and I never find them to be interesting enough to talk about. Anyway, bye.